Hey, welcome back to an ongoing series where we basically look at the regional differences between the same game in two different regions. After a couple episodes, I'm starting to notice here that there are a lot more regional differences in the early games where companies seem to really care about whatever region that game is going to be released in. And with Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo and Mario Kart 64, you're going to find here that Nintendo made a lot of changes based off of the idea of not getting in trouble, with a couple of little things here and there that were either touch-ups or going along with the established naming conventions of certain characters, or do something that I feel like not enough game companies do to avoid their main characters from sounding silly, which is audio overhaul, even though the characters were speaking English. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Why don't we jump right into it and hit you with one of our 4 categories here, which is sound. And again, we're picking sound because this is one of the most absurd things that I've seen in any episodes that I've covered so far. So we'll talk about Super Mario Kart whenever it's relevant to whatever topic we're talking about, but in this topic, this is pretty much exclusive to Mario Kart 64. So let's get into it. The first thing I have to mention is the announcer voice when you pick an option from the menu. In the US, you might remember that it's voiced by Mario, which was an excellent choice from what was originally recorded. Originally, it was just a generic announcer, and I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of Mario versus this Japanese announcer that is speaking English, and you can judge for yourself which one's better.
Option Data Mario Grand Prix Time Trial. Option Data Mario Grand Prix Time Attack versus Battle. Select your player. Select map. Versus Battle. Select your player. Select map.
Also, the main title screen was once again voiced by Mario in the US version, but in the Japanese original version, it was voiced by a chorus of children. Check it out.
Welcome to Mario Kart.
And half the roster was recast and revoiced. So I'm just going to let the characters do the talking for me, but I am going to introduce them. The first one we're going to talk about here is Luigi.
Yahoo! Ho ho! Dingo! Dingo! Ho ho ho! Here we go! Bingo! Yahoo! Yahoo! Here we go! Mamma mia! I'm Luigi, number 1. Luigi is the
And now here's Princess Peach.
Let's go. Take that. Bingo. Bye-bye. Yep, lady. Bingo. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you.
Here's Toad.
Yahoo! Here we go! Yahoo! Here we go! Yahoo! Here we go! Yahoo! Here we go! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Yeah! I'm the best!
And here's Wario.
So I missed. Here I go. Here I go. Here we go. I'm a Wario. I'm gonna Mario, I gotta win!
Anyways, let's move on to the next topic, but before we talk about the next topic, if you're looking for any of the Japanese merchandise that I featured in this episode, I got a great sponsor for you. And yeah, if you want an easy way to find any Japanese game you want, or Japanese merchandise that never came out in America, I highly recommend today's sponsor, Bai. See, Japan has their own auction sites as well, but since it's all in Japanese, it stayed pretty much local. You almost never see any of these auctions shipped globally. But Bai makes all those auctions available to you. So you can look at the auction in English, you can also convert your US dollars into yen, and you can also ship anywhere you want. They'll take it to their warehouse and ship it over to you. If you like collecting rare and obscure merch, there's really no reason why you shouldn't check out Bai. And the best part is that they offer 2,000 yen for your first purchase, which is what I always like to say is basically like a little shopping spree. It's awesome. Bai is amazing. Love you, Bai. Big love. And back to the show. Alright, so we'll start off in order with Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. And right here on the front, you can see a tagline that says, "Where racing becomes an adventure." And on all sides of the box, you can see key art of various characters. I already showed you the Koopa and the Lakitu. And here is Bowser with a red shell hitting him. And on the last side here, we can also see Toad. But anyways, let's read the back of the box. Starts off with saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. The Super Mario Go-Kart Park is open for fun. Master the unique driving styles of Mario, Luigi, and the Princess. Drag with Donkey Kong Jr. Crash with the King of Koopas. Lock fenders with Yoshi. You can race head-to-head with a friend or against the computer in great split-screen Mode 7 trademark graphics. Do you have what it takes to win the Gold Cup in the challenging Star Circuit? It's as much fun to drive as it is to win. Feel like a bit less speed and a lot more strategy? Take a crack at the Battle Mode. In 4 different maze-like courses, you'll use Koopa shells, banana peels, superstars, and other wacky weapons to burst your opponent's target balloons and triumph. 2 games in 1, Mario Grand Prix and Battle Mode. 8 familiar characters, 20 different tracks, 3 different skill levels, and battery-backed memory to save your best times. Anyways, let's open this box here and show you that there is a cart that has similar artwork to the one that was on the front of the box. Also, we have the US style manual with a lot of black, and then a print of the US style box. On the first page, you'll see a Lakitu, and it says, "Introduction. Hi everybody, thanks for dropping by the Super Mario Kart racetrack. My name is Lakitu. I run this track. If you need my help, I'll be around. We race 1-seater metal pipe frame go-karts here. There are 2 engine sizes to choose from, 50cc or 100cc. All the go-karts are more or less the same. It's the individual drivers that make up the difference when it comes to winning. Each driver has their own strengths and weaknesses. Try using different drivers until you find the one that's best for you." And the white text here says, "This game has a battery-backed memory that saves the best time trial times and keeps track of which trophy cups you have earned. If you switch the game pack on and off repeatedly, you may erase the saved information." And then you'll see beautiful cell art of, I believe most of the ones that are used here were used in past games. I might be wrong about that. Though I will say this art of a Koopa Troopa is the most adorable version of the Koopa Troopa I've ever seen, and I can't really say for sure if I've ever seen that in any other game before. But where I was unsure about that, I can say from here forth, the rest of the artwork was made uniquely for Super Mario Kart. And try to remember this image here for later. We'll get to that. But as you can see here, this unique artwork of Mario playing Battle Mode with Bowser, as well as doing some drifting, collecting coins, Yoshi looking like he's spinning out, and then we got descriptions of the drivers. Now this is really cool. I won't go through reading all the descriptions, but I will take the time to mention all these little nicknames they have, like the Bros, which has Mario and Luigi, the Dragon and the Lady, which has Princess Peach and Yoshi, the Showdown with Bowser and Donkey Kong Jr., and the Small Guys featuring the Koopa and Toad. Here's something that will be different from the Japanese version, so take a note of it. In the US manual, when talking about the Ghost Valley slipperiness, it says absent in the box that has an X. And then it shows you the name of the various racetracks, which is pretty cool. And at the very end, there's some master tips featuring Mario getting pulled out of the water by Lakitu. And that's that. Let's move on to the Japanese box now. And there's that unique artwork that was only featured inside the manual of the US version, which I will say is pretty nice that they managed to include that in the US manual in some form. One thing that you will notice is that if you compare the artwork of this box with the box that was for the US one, they pretty much had to redraw all the characters, and some of them are in very similar poses, but 100% they were all redone. Anyways, looking on the back of the box, it has its own description, which was graciously translated by 3Frame Window. I do really appreciate that. Anyways, let's see what the translation says. At the top it says, use items to deal with attacks from your rival. Nail corners with drift. Little body filled with excitement, referring to the karts. Super action racing is born. And then the text that's over Mario says, the colorful world of motorsports. From their variety of events, it's time for kart racing. The entry roster is 8 racers of 4 types in 24 unique tracks. Our familiar drivers will use everything they got to win, including Koopa shells and banana peels. You can have fun in 5 game modes for 1 player or 2 players in Mario Kart, no matter if you're a racing newbie or a veteran. Let's go to the start line together. And again, we'll open it up here, and now you'll see that the sticker label for the cartridge is different from that on the front of the box, unlike the US version. This one has that artwork of Mario drifting, and you're going to start to notice that there's all sorts of different types of art that gets repurposed in the US media. One other thing that's kind of interesting too is that included with this set is a cardboard card that describes all the items you can get, and it explains the controls of the game on the back. But anyways, opening up the game manual, there's also a message here similar to the US one, but it reads out a little bit differently. It says, hi everyone, welcome to the race venue of Super Mario Kart today. I am the starter, judge, and helper for all the karts that fall out of the stage in this event. Basically, I look after all the drivers, and my name is Jugemu. And naming the character Jugemu has quite the backstory for it if you're not familiar with Japanese culture. So first of all, Jugemu is a famous rakugo story, and a rakugo is what you're seeing here on the screen. It's a form of Japanese spoken entertainment where a lone storyteller will usually show up on stage and tell a story. And so the plot of Jugemu is 2 parents that couldn't think of a name for their newborn son, and the father went to a temple and asked the priest to come up with a name. The priest suggests Jugemu and several other names, and the father could not decide which, so instead he gave the baby all of the names all at once as the name. Here's a pre-made little meme that I saw on Google. Honestly, none of you want to hear me botch all these Japanese words, but as you can see here, it's a ridiculous length, and that's the whole point of the story. But why would a Lakitu be named Jugemu? Well, there's different variations of that story, and it's often theorized by Japanese fans of the game that it's a version where, in a less gruesome version, Jugemu falls into a lake due to the people that found him drowning in the lake took so long to try to say out his name, and his parents barely arrive in time to save him, which I'm sure that's the version that inspired the name of this Lakitu. And the reason for that is that the Lakitu does take the time to get the kart racers out of the lake, and he even makes a point to say this in his description in the game manual. Also interesting to note, Paipo Paipo is one of the names that is part of Jugemu's full name, as you can see here again with that meme. And Paipo is the name of the Spiney's eggs that the Lakitu throws out. It's all interconnected. It also says, by the way, my real name is Fishing Jugemu. It's a pleasure to meet you. As you're probably noticing as I'm flipping through the pages here, they did not reuse any old artwork for this manual of Super Mario Kart. Unlike the US version, every piece of line art that you see here is uniquely made and in later use in the US manual as well. But there is one thing that is really unique to this manual. Occasionally there are haikus. This one next to Mario says, "It is addicting when you were nailing a drift, such high pleasure." And then in this manual, Yoshi's actually saying something. And what he's saying here is, "Give me," with the exclamation point, and then it says coin ... And interesting to note, it's English in katakana form. And the haiku next to him says, "If I saved it up, I will not ever let it go. This coin." And then we have something similar to the US manual, except all the descriptions are slightly different. For Mario and Luigi, it says Showdown of Brothers. And then for Princess Peach and Yoshi, it says Showdown of Beauty and Dinosaur. For King Koopa and Donkey Kong Jr., it says Showdown of the Big. And then for the Koopa and Toad, it says Showdown of the Side Characters, which could also be translated to supporting characters. And there's the X that I told you about with the US manual. It doesn't have any text inside of it whatsoever, and it's a completely different colored X as well. Here again are some various tips, but here's something that I found really interesting. The ape logo was in this yellow box, so I asked to have it translated, and the entire thing translates to Nintendo Official Guidebook with the red font. And then in the blue font, it says editing and planning done by Ape and Shogakan. Ape famously worked on the Mother series, which again, I had no idea that they had any involvement with Super Mario Kart. And then Shogakan is a big famous Japanese publisher, known best for Detective Conan. And then here it just kind of talks about the guidebook a bit. It says full reveal of all course maps, character-specific guides, the ultimate winning strategy for 2 players. Of course, we have course-specific advice for Time Attack. You can also read fun manga about Mario. This is the advent of only the official guide. And then the blue font says, plan to be available in September, price to be announced. Now I gotta buy the player's guide so I can check out this manga. I will definitely be picking that up at some point. That'd be interesting to translate. Anyways, moving on to the N64 versions, Mario Kart 64 for the US. This one also has unique 3D artwork on all sides of the binder of the box. And on the back it says, 3, 2, 1, go. The signal light changes and you drop the pedal to the metal. Take on up to 3 friends in the split screen versus games, or race solo in the Mario Kart Grand Prix. Tell your friends to bring it on in the highly competitive battle mode. Advanced features allow you to race with your quote-unquote ghost. No longer must you race simply against the clock. You can finally race against yourself. The manual actually has a revision if you bought the player's choice version. It's a lot more boring, but the original release had this gorgeous looking cover that wraps around the entire thing, so if you open it up like this, you can see one large image with Wario, Bowser, Peach, and Toad. It's pretty cool. Again, lots of fantastic art being used here. There's also a little image of Lakitu that says it's time to start. You can see here all the characters are named, and when you check out the Japanese manual, you will see the Japanese variants to all these names. It's kind of interesting. Lots of great, unique art made for these manuals that you wouldn't be able to see if you only bought the cart or played on a virtual console. Definitely worth at least giving you a look here. And lots of zoom out shots of various courses. You know me, I love me some good zoom outs, so all these pictures are kind of fantastic with deep descriptions of so many of these. And that's all there is to really note for the US one. The Japanese box, however, oh, we got a lot to talk about. This thing is beefy, isn't it? It's because it comes with its own unique controller with a black top and a gray bottom. You can see the characters' names in a tire behind Mario, and if you look at the binder, you can see a lot of that unique art used in the US manual in complete full. It is really quite lovely, I must say. Well, anyways, the seller was nice enough to include the controller, so we'll put that aside. And outside of that is a normal N64 size box and has a lot of stuff written on the back, so I'm going to read this out to you as well. The red font with the black border says, everyone's in a heated mood. Playing just by yourself is a waste. The white font with a green border says, the famous Mario Kart Rush in the N64 with a huge power-up, lasting action of fun characters, stacked game modes, satisfying 4-player functionality. Battle mode comes back as well. It's almost too fun. And then the yellow font with the purple border says, more exciting by connecting 4 controllers. That's a lot better. I have no idea what was going on with the localizers in the West. Anyways, opening it up, you'll see that the label does match the cover of both the large box and the smaller box. The game manual also features its own unique, wonderful looking art. And if we open it up the same way we did for the US one, we don't get the same effect. We have Mario giving us a nice thumbs up as he's driving away. But here you can see the various characters' alternate names. They also were nice enough to write them out in Japanese, but we'll get to all that a little bit later. The manual is relatively the same to the US one, and funny enough, if you look at the credits in the back of the manual here, Charles Martinet is credited in English, but they spelled his name wrong. It's really unfortunate. All right, let's move on to the next subject. Next one I would like to talk about is something that's really fascinating, and this is something that will span both games, and that subject is sprite changes. So now that we're on to sprites, let's talk about one that's the most interesting of all. You're looking at it right now and you may not even realize it. It's Yoshi. For whatever reason, Nintendo decided we gotta fatten up Yoshi for the US release, which means he gets changed from all sides. And so what you're seeing here for the side view is Yoshi's eyes are more wide in the Japanese release, and his knee seems to poke out further over his arm. Either that or his arm is a lot thinner. But yeah, a very unusual choice, one that's very clearly not necessary at all. But you're gonna see the easiest discrepancy right here when the camera is angled behind Yoshi. Going to blow up the image super large to show you that his cheeks kind of puff out in the US version. Now, where I don't agree that the Yoshi change was particularly necessary, these next two things I'm going to show you were very, very necessary. As is tradition for winning a race, the person in first gets a bottle of champagne. And as you can see here, in Japan, Bowser, or Koopa, is guzzling the bottle of champagne, which is a bit of a surprise, but you might be more surprised to find out a character that is not so devious enjoying an entire bottle of champagne in a family-friendly game, and that's Princess Peach. Her face even becomes flushed after drinking. I can't believe this. And are there any sprite changes in Mario Kart 64? Well, not on the characters themselves, but the billboards all got a huge overhaul. And the reason for this is that in Japan, they decided it'd be a great idea to do parodies of various corporation logos. Whereas when they decided to localize it, they weren't playing around. They decided, no, we don't want to get sued. Let's keep this out. Let's revise this and just make it so that it's entirely our own and we don't have to worry about this. And so as a result, we got the Mariaro, which is a parody of Marlboro, changed to Mario Star. Got a parody of the AG IP, changed to Luigi IP, and that was changed to Luigi's for the international release. Another parody of Mobile, which was changed to Yoshi with a 1, and for the US release, it's just Yoshi with his paw print. Koopa Air is a parody of the Goodyear company, and for the international release, it just changed the color composition. And as for flat signs, the Nintendo logo went from blue to red, which is now the second time in this series where a Nintendo logo had a different color in the Japanese release, although in the Animal Crossing episode that I'm referring to, it was white and not blue. And for this last one, I had to look up online as to why they would even change this. I didn't recognize this parody, so big thank you to the Cutting Room Floor. I'll leave a link to that website in the video description. And apparently in Japan, it was an orange ball with a blue 64, which was a parody of the 76 gas station. And once again, just to kind of remove that affiliation, it was changed to a blue ball with a white 64. And lastly, this sign for a farm says Moo Moo Farm in the US, but Momo Farm in Japan, which before I get corrected for it, in Japan, it would still sound like a cow moo. That's why it's spelled the way that it is. And obviously it was changed in the US for the more common spelling that we do out here. But speaking of Moo Moo Farm, let's move on to the next subject. And the reason why we move on now to menu stuff is that there's English written words that the Japanese version has that plain as day tells you what in Japan they decided they were going to name these courses. But there are so many courses in the US version that were completely renamed, despite the fact that it's already been spelled out for them. And one of those was Moo Moo Farm. But that is probably the least interesting among some of these other changes. For example, Luigi Raceway is Luigi Circuit in Japan. Karakara means parched or dried up, so Karakara Desert is the name in Japan. And they did a really interesting change in the US. It's the Calamari Desert. It's almost like a nod to the original name, whereas at the same time not being anywhere close to an accurate translation. Canopio Highway turned into Toad's Turnpike. Canopio is the Japanese word for toad, and it's the highway change to turnpike that is especially interesting here. Mario Circuit and Peach Circuit in Japan, just like the Luigi Circuit, they were all changed to Raceway. Koopa Castle was turned into Bowser's Castle, which again makes total sense. In the US, DK's Jungle Parkway was changed from Donkey Jungle Park. A very wise decision. Hyodoro Lake was changed to Banshee Boardwalk. One of the things you'll notice here in the player select menu, the only cup that's changed in the Japanese one is the Kanoko Cup, changed into the Mushroom Cup. And for the player select screen, you're going to see that there's a couple of names that are changed based off of the cemented US localization of certain character names, like Canopio being Toad, Koopa being Bowser, and also D-Kong being changed to DK. Another good change, but also if you look at it very, very closely, you can see that the font for all the names are slightly different between the two versions. And to bring it back to the Super Nintendo version, we got a couple of things on the title screen here that were just gutted out for the US release. What looks like children's crayon drawings on the sky itself features a couple of Japanese phrases in the Japanese version. There's a little umbrella here that says Mario and Peach in Japanese. It looks like a drawing of a little umbrella here, and the names of Mario and Peach are underneath it. It's a cute little thing in Japanese culture that is supposed to signify two people under one umbrella, which is known as an ai gasa. And then over here, a whole Japanese phrase that just says Mario Kart. Again, I'm really surprised that the devs just didn't choose to translate any of this and instead removed it completely. And lastly, the Mario Kart logo right on the front of the screen was once more bunched up in the Japanese version. It's not easy to notice on your own. By doing a side-by-side comparison like we're doing here and transitioning it into one another, you can see how the letter A kind of clips into other letters in the word Mario Kart. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. There's going to be big changes to the channel. I'm bringing on a new host. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be leaving. It just means that there's going to be twice as many videos, and out of 250 applicants, I finally found somebody, so I'm really excited to show him off to you. Hope that you like the new host. I think that he'll fit really well with the tone of the channel, but I'll let you guys be the judge yourselves. You may see his Boundary Break episode at the end of the month or the following Friday into the next month. We haven't really figured it out yet, but we wanted to make sure that it's really polished for all of you. Anyways, guys, take care for now and have a great day.